The sun was starting to dip below the rooftops, casting long shadows across the narrow street of the neighborhood. Cars were lined up on both sides, bumper to bumper, as if they had nowhere else to go. Finding a parking spot here was always a challenge, especially after a long day of work. The sidewalks buzzed softly with neighbors returning home, tired but glad to be back. She walked slowly, her bag heavy on one shoulder, eyes scanning every inch of the curb for an empty space. After a tiring day, all she wanted was to park close to her building and finally relax. But every spot seemed taken. The frustration settled deep in her chest, growing with every car she passed. Then, just ahead, she saw an older man carefully trying to park in a small spot right near her front door. It wasn't just any spot, it was the one she usually aimed for, the one she believed she had the right to. A sharp edge of protectiveness cut through her tiredness. Without thinking too much, she stepped forward and called out to him. "Sir, I'm sorry, but you can't park there," she said politely but firmly, hoping he'd understand. "That spot's usually for residents, you might want to find somewhere else." The man looked up at her, his eyes wide with surprise. He hesitated a moment, then nodded quietly and moved on. She felt a small, unexpected burst of victory. Maybe tonight, she thought, she'd get that spot after all. After the old man moved his car and walked away from the spot, she watched him carefully. He didn't hurry, but there was something steady in the way he walked, slow but sure. He carried a large keychain that jingled softly with every step, heavy with many keys that caught the fading light. Curiosity tugged at her. She noticed how his eyes seemed to scan the building, how he paused for a moment near the front door. It looked like he knew the place well, but she couldn't understand why. The building was old and mostly quiet, often empty. Most of the apartments had been vacant for months, and the paint on the walls was peeling in some places. It didn't seem like a place someone would want to spend much time. As she stood there, she overheard a few neighbors talking nearby. Their voices were low but clear enough. "That building's been empty for a long time," one said. "It's a shame, used to be a nice place. The old owner doesn't come by much anymore," another added. "Yeah, he's a bit of a mystery. Folks say he's old and keeps to himself." The narrator folded her arms and glanced at the old man again. He seemed harmless enough, maybe a visitor, or someone trying to sneak in for some reason. She didn't like the thought of strangers near her building. The idea of someone unknown parking so close made her uneasy. Her mind told her she was doing the right thing. After all, parking spots were scarce, and it felt wrong for someone to take one without clear permission, especially near a building that wasn't even well taken care of. She shrugged to herself, feeling sure she had made the right choice. Still, the old man's quiet presence and the way he held his keys stuck in her mind. Why did he seem so familiar with that building? She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story than she realized, but for now, she told herself it didn't matter. The spot was hers, and she wasn't about to give it up. The next day, as the sun climbed higher, and the neighborhood stirred with its usual rhythm, she stepped out again, hoping to find a quick spot before the rush began. To her surprise, and quiet frustration, the old man was already there, pulling smoothly into the same parking spot she had claimed the night before. He didn't hesitate or look around as if unsure, he just parked calm and certain, as if the spot belonged to him. She stood frozen for a moment, watching. This time, she didn't step forward to stop him. Instead, she followed at a distance, curiosity twisting into something sharper. The man reached into his pocket, pulling out the heavy keychain she had noticed before. Slowly, deliberately, he moved toward the front door of the old building. Her breath caught when she saw him slide a large rusty key into the lock. The door clicked open, revealing the dim interior of the building. The old man pushed the door wider and stepped inside without hesitation. For a moment she just stared, heart pounding with disbelief. The idea that he was the owner, no, more than that, the caretaker of the building, didn't fit the image she had in her head. He wasn't just some visitor or stranger after all. The man she had so quickly judged and told off was someone with a deep connection to this place. Suddenly, memories of hushed conversations floated back to her. She remembered bits and pieces she'd overheard from neighbors. "He's been here for decades, keeps things running behind the scenes." Another voice, quiet but respected, "Doesn't bother anyone, but make sure the place doesn't fall apart. The pride she had felt after telling him off drained away, replaced by a heavy knot of guilt. How could she have been so quick to judge? What right did she have to assume he didn't belong? She thought of the old man's slow, steady walk, the many keys jingling softly, a sign of responsibility, not aimlessness. His quiet presence was a kind of resilience, one that she had failed to recognize. Embarrassment flushed through her as she realized how wrong she had been. The spot she had guarded so fiercely was not hers alone, it belonged to him in a way she never imagined. Her mind raced. What if she had offended someone who had quietly cared for this building for years? The thought settled like a weight in her chest. She watched the old man disappear inside, the door closing gently behind him, leaving her standing outside with a mix of regret and a new respect slowly growing within her. After the surprising discovery, she couldn't stop thinking about the old man. Something about his quiet strength stayed with her, pushing her to learn more. She began asking neighbors, people who had lived in the area longer than she had. Slowly pieces of his story came together. They told her he had owned the building for decades. But life had not been easy. He had lost his wife many years ago, and later, his only son in a tragic accident. Those losses had left him alone, but he never stopped caring for the place he called home. One neighbor, Mrs. Ramirez, who had lived next door for over 20 years, spoke softly. "He's a quiet man, but he's been the heart of this building for a long time. Even when no one else was around, he kept things safe. Fixed the leaks, cleared the hallways, made sure nobody had to leave because of a broken heater or a flooded basement." The narrator listened carefully, feeling a deep swell of respect. She imagined the loneliness the old man must carry, and how every day he showed up, not for glory or praise, but because he cared. Another neighbor added, "Most people don't see it, but he's kept this building standing through thick and thin. That's resilience right there." The words settled inside her like a soft but powerful truth. She thought back to the moment she had told him not to park there, how quickly she had judged him without knowing anything about his life. Her impatience, her frustration with the parking situation, it all had blinded her to the man's real story. A heavy regret filled her. She wished she could take back her sharp words, the cold way she had spoken to him. More than that, she wished she could tell him she was sorry, that she understood now. Her heart ached for the loneliness he must feel, and for the strength it took to keep going every day quietly, without complaint. For the first time, she saw the old man not as a stranger or an obstacle, but as someone worthy of respect and kindness. The lesson hit hard. Appearances can be misleading, and a single moment of judgment can hide a lifetime of resilience. She promised herself that next time, she would be kinder. And maybe, just maybe, she would find a way to make things right. One afternoon, just as the sun began to warm the sidewalks, the old man appeared at the entrance of her own building. She hadn't expected to see him there, and her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, old feelings of guilt and embarrassment surfaced, but they quickly gave way to curiosity. Instead of anger or coldness, the old man greeted her with a gentle smile. His eyes held no bitterness, only quiet warmth and a hint of sadness. "Hello," he said softly. "I thought it was time we talked." Surprised, she nodded and stepped aside to let him in. As they walked into the lobby, he began to share his story. He spoke of the loneliness that had settled over his life after losing his family, the silence that sometimes felt louder than any noise. He told her how people often judged him without understanding, how they saw only an old man with a bunch of keys and not the years of care behind each one. "Sometimes," he said, "people don't see the whole story, they see what they want to see. It can hurt. But kindness changes everything." She listened, feeling the weight of his words settle deep inside her. She saw now how her quick judgment had hurt more than just his pride, it had missed the chance to connect with someone truly strong. Her voice caught as she spoke. "I'm sorry, I didn't know, I was wrong to judge you so quickly." The old man's smile grew a little wider. "It's never too late to change. We all make mistakes." From that moment something shifted between them. They began to talk more often, sharing stories about the neighborhood, the building, and their lives. The narrator learned about his small acts of kindness, fixing a broken pipe here, helping a struggling tenant there, that had quietly kept the community alive. What started as a tense misunderstanding grew into a bond built on respect and compassion. She realized that sometimes, the hardest lessons come wrapped in unexpected moments, like a man unlocking a door she thought she owned, opening her eyes instead to a whole new way of seeing the world. From that day on, everything looked different to her. The neighborhood wasn't just a place to live or a struggle to find parking, it was full of stories, quiet strength, and people doing their best to keep it alive. She realized how easy it was to judge someone without knowing their full story, and how patience and respect could change the way she saw the world. The old man's quiet resilience taught her that sometimes, what's hidden beneath the surface matters more than what's visible. Behind every face is a lifetime of experiences, some painful, some beautiful, all worth honoring. She started noticing neighbors she had never spoken to before, offering smiles instead of suspicion. When someone parked where they weren't sure they should, she thought twice before reacting. The lesson stayed with her: kindness often begins with understanding. In the end, it wasn't about a parking spot or a building, it was about connection, about seeing people for who they really are, beyond first impressions and assumptions. And sometimes, the smallest act of empathy, like opening a door or offering a simple apology, can bring two strangers together and quietly change both their lives. With a lighter heart, she looked out over the street, knowing that the neighborhood felt a little warmer now. Because in that moment she learned the true meaning of respect, and how it could build a better community for everyone.